All right. Now, before I get into these stories, just so you know what's coming, okay? Obviously, I have more stories about Uncle Jim because he and I were, buddies for a long, long time. We went to, grammar school, high school, college together. And then I've got Uncle Dennis because I just knew him longer than Uncle Tommy. And then, Kathy and I less about Annie. But to tell you, they're characters. Tommy's still around, and you got to talk to Tom. And Kathy's around. They got stories. Trust me, they have stories. I'll do the best I can with the ones I remember. But they got some good stories and a good storytellers. So anyway, so let me give you a sense of the character, right? And here's the characters in the family, right? Here's, first of all, there's my dad. My dad grew up in Brooklyn, and he was quiet guy, made friends easy. He had, lots of friends. Everybody knew him. All the kids used to call him Pop. Even other kids call him Pop. So, but he was more of a introverted, character. He was a funny guy, jokes around a lot and stuff like that. But he knew you, but he wasn't going to be, kind of glad handing people, etc. Now, and he went to high school. He went to a trade school, really to be a court stenographer. In those days, they used to do it by hand, shorthand, and stuff like that. And it was a trade. But the war broke out, and actually he ended up learning the trade of welding in the Brooklyn shipyard. Became a welder, and I'll tell you that story later on. But anyway, my dad was also a good drawer, and he could draw very, very well. In fact, he had looked at maybe becoming a commercial artist at one point in time. So we'll talk more about Pop, okay? And then my mom. Now, my mom only went to 8th grade. She was her and her sisters before her. So she was the 5th one in the family of 9. My dad was the last of 5. Okay, he was the youngest of 5. My mother was in the middle of 9. She was the 5th of 9, and she didn't go to high school. Now, all of her sisters ahead of her didn't go to high school either. They're all 8th grade graduates, and that's it. And you didn't have to go to high school in those days. And then everybody after that went to high school. My other aunts and uncles. So the family pretty big, right? You got 5 on my dad's side, and you got 9 on my mom's side. So there was some good family reunions there, and with all the other cousins and stuff living in town. So we had a good time growing up. But that's a little bit of the background of the family, and then we had, let's say who lived in town, so you know who it was. My Aunt Betty, on my dad's side. My Aunt Betty lived in Chester, Pennsylvania, right outside of Chester, Brookhaven, Pennsylvania. My Aunt Esther lived in New York City. Uncle George worked at Yankee Stadium. He was a groundskeeper there, and they lived a couple blocks from Yankee Stadium. My Aunt Kay was single, and she worked in New York City. She had several different jobs in New York City, but she lived in the city. My Uncle John, on my dad's side, he had problems, okay? He had a drinking problem, etc. We really never spent much time with Uncle John, never really got to know him very well. And then there was my dad. On my mom's side, my Aunt Mary, she passed away at about 40 years old. So really young, had pancreatic cancer. And so I didn't get to know Aunt Mary very well, okay? Then after that, there was Aunt Sophie, and she's a character. You'll hear about her in some stories. And then there was Aunt Sue, and Uncle Bill had the farm. They had a farm right in West Paterson, New Jersey. Hard to believe there was a farm there, but it was a chicken. They raised chickens. Well, they raised a lot of stuff. Chickens, turkeys, all kinds of stuff. And I spent quite a bit of time on the farm. So I'll tell you those stories too. Then my Aunt Annie and Uncle Fred, they lived right in town. Uncle Fred worked for a construction company. But Uncle Fred could do he was a mechanical guy. I mean, He had lathes. He had all kind of machinery down there. He was in the fire company. He made all the nozzles. And he was always into something. He was another funny kind of character. We'll talk about him too, Uncle Fred. Of course, then it was my mom. And then there was Aunt Toots and Aunt Nett. And Aunt Toots married Uncle A. And ultimately, they had a gas station. They owned a gas station. And then Aunt Nett and Uncle Lenny, Uncle Len worked for the phone company in New York City. And we'll bring that family into play here. And then there was Uncle Al, a character. Well, there's a lot of stories, guys. There's a lot of stories. Uncle John, another character in his own way. Really nice guy, though. And then, of course, there's my grandmother and grandfather on the Creel side. I didn't know my grandmother or grandfather on the Duffy side. They had passed away when I was a little kid, so I didn't know them at all. Anyway, that's kind of the family tree. So just kind of giving you some background. And we'll come back and touch base on all of those characters. They'll be in and out of different stories. Okay, it's enough for this one.